Hello everyone and welcome back to another session. So today we are going to do the chapter audit and assessment. Sorry, assessment and audit. Okay. So starting the questions. Question number 1, it says, is summary assessment order to be necessarily passed against the registered person? So there is an exception to this. So let's see the answer. See, in certain case, no. So first we have to mention is it yes or no, and then we have to give our explanation. So no, in certain cases, like when goods are under transportation or are stored in a warehouse and the registered person in respect of such goods cannot be ascertained. So when you don't know who is the registered person, in those cases, if the goods are in transport or stored in warehouse, then the person in charge of such goods, since you don't know who is a registered person, so whosoever is in charge of such goods shall be deemed to be the registered person and will be assessed to tax. So whosoever is in charge of such goods can be assessed to tax in cases where the registered person is uncertain. Okay, this is one exception, you need to remember this. Now question number 2, whether principle of natural justice is must to be followed before passing assessment order against the unregistered person. The principle of natural justice has to be maintained in all the cases. See, answer is yes. Principle of natural justice is a must to be followed before passing assessment order against any unregistered person seeking to impose any financial burden on him. So in any case, the principle of natural justice will prevail. Now, question number 3. Explain in what cases assessment order passed by proper officer may be withdrawn. So, in which cases the assessment order passed can be withdrawn. So, there are two cases. First is assessment of non-filers of returns, and second one is sorry. Second one is your summary assessment. So, let's see the answers in details. Assessment order passed by the proper officer may be withdrawn in the following cases. First is your assessment of non-filing of returns. So the best judgment order passed by the proper officer under section 62 of the CGST Act shall automatically stand withdrawn where a registered person files a valid return within 60 days of the service of best judgment assessment order. So in case if best judgment assessment order is passed on the assessee and within 60 days of that order, if the assessee is filing valid return, then this order shall automatically stand withdrawn. However, the liability, but still the liability to pay interest and any late fees will prevail. Okay, only your order will stand withdrawn in case a valid return is filed within 60 days. However, the liability for payment of interest under Section 51 of the CGST Act 2070 or for full payment of late fee under Section 47 shall continue. However, where the registered person fails to furnish a valid return within 60 days of service of assessment order, he may furnish the same within a period of 60 days on payment of additional late fee of rupees 100 each day. Remember, the penalty here is rupees 100 each day of delay period beyond 60 days of the service of the said assessment order. So what happens in case after you have received the best judgment assessment order and within 60 days of that order, if you are not filing a valid return, then again you have an option to file a valid return for another 60 days. Okay, so after the 61st day of your best judgment assessment order, if you are paying at say 100th day, so for 40 days you will be paying penalty of rupees 100 per day. Okay, and then and in case he furnishes valid return within such extended period, the said assessment order shall be deemed to have been withdrawn. So again, if he pays till 120th day from the original assessment date, then also the original assessment shall be deemed to be withdrawn. But the point here is that after 61st day, there will be penalty of rupees 100 per day. But again in this case also the liability to pay interest under section 51 or to pay late fee under section 47 shall continue. So even if you are filing valid return, your assessment order will be deemed to have been withdrawn, but still your interest liability and your late fee liability prevails. Then second case is your summary assessment. So as per section 64(2) of the CGST Act 2017, a taxable person against whom a summary assessment order has been passed can apply for its withdrawal to the jurisdictional additional joint commissioner within 30 days of the date of the receipt of order. Okay, so if there is a summary assessment order that is passed for then you can apply for the withdrawal of that order within 30 days of the receipt of the order. If the said officer finds the order erroneous, he can withdraw it. So if the order is erroneous, the officer shall withdraw it and direct the proper officer to carry out determination of tax liability in terms of section 73 or 74 or 74A of the CGST Act. The additional and joint commissioner can follow a similar course of action on his own motion if he finds the summary order to be erroneous. So whether the assessee is asking that the order is erroneous or the proper officer finds himself that the order is erroneous, it can be withdrawn from within 30 days from the date of receipt of such order. And in case the order is being withdrawn, then the tax liability will be decided as per your section 73 or 74 or 74A, whichever is applicable. Now moving to question number 4. Explain the difference between audit of tax authorities under section 65 special audit and special audit under section 66. This is purely theoretical question, okay? This you need to remember. Audit by tax authorities under section 65 of the CGST Act. The commissioner or any officer authorized by him can undertake audit of a registered person for such period at such frequency and in such manner as may be prescribed. The audit shall be completed within a period of 3 months from the date of commencement of audit. However, the commissioner can extend the period for maximum up to 6 months. So this is 3 plus 6 months, okay? And special audit under section 66. The registered person can be directed to get his records including books of account examined and audited by CA or a cost accountant during any stage of scrutiny, inquiry, investigation or any other proceedings, depending upon the complexity of the case. Any officer not below the rank of assistant commissioner may order special audit with the prior approval of commissioner. Okay, you have to remember this, who can order and the prior approval of commissioner is necessary. If he is of the opinion that the value has not been correctly declared or the credit availed is not within the normal limit. So if you have these two reasons that the value has not been correctly derived, okay, there is a miscalculation in calculating the value or the credit availed is not within the normal limits, then in those two cases with the approval of commissioner, any officer not below the rank of assistant commissioner can order for special audit, and audit has to be completed within 90 days and plus 90 days. Okay, further extension of 90 days is possible. Now question number 5. Explain the recourse that may be taken by the officer in case of proper explanation is not furnished for the discrepancy detected in the return filed while conducting scrutiny of returns. So while conducting the scrutiny of returns, if there is any discrepancy is found and the officer is not given proper explanation, so what is the course of action for the proper officer? Okay, again this is a theoretical question. If proper explanation is not furnished for the discrepancy detected in return filed while conducting scrutiny of returns under section 61, the proper officer may conduct audit of the registered person. So he can ask the audit to be conducted. What next things that can be done? Direct the registered person to get his records including books of audit account examined and audited by a CA or a cost accountant nominated for this purpose by the commissioner, that is a special audit, or exercise the powers of inspection, search and seizure with respect to the registered person, or Proceed to determine the tax and other dues of registered person under section 73 or 74 or 74A of the Act as applicable. Now question number 6. Okay. Write a brief note on summary assessment in certain special cases as per section 64. So again, this is theoretical question you need to remember. Okay. See, as per section 64, summary assessments can be initiated to protect the interest of revenue with the previous permission of additional joint commissioner. This you have to remember that previous permission of additional joint commissioner when the proper officer has evidence that a taxable person has incurred a liability to pay tax under the Act and any delay by him in passing an assessment order may adversely affect the interest of revenue. So if the proper officer has evidence, remember the word evidence here, okay? So there should be evidence that the it will adversely affect the interest of your revenue, and then you have to take permission of additional commissioner or joint commissioner, okay? Then additional commissioner or joint commissioner may withdraw summary assessment order on application filed by taxable person within 30 days from the date of receipt of order on his own motion if he finds such order to be erroneous, and may instead follow the procedures laid in section 73 or 74 or 74A to determine the tax liability of such taxable person. So in case the order is found erroneous, the additional or joint commissioner may withdraw the order and then they shall proceed under section 73, 74 or 74A. Where the taxable person to whom the liability pertains is not ascertainable and such liability pertains to supply of goods, okay. So in case the person is not ascertainable and the liability pertains to supply of goods, then the person in charge of such goods shall be deemed to be the taxable person liable to be assessed and liable to pay tax and any other amounts due under this section. So in case if you are not able to find the person who is liable, okay, that person is unascertainable and there is a supply of goods, then in that case the person who has the goods is deemed to be that person, and that person is liable for taxes and all the penalties or interest or whatever liability accruing in terms of those supply of goods. Okay, now moving to question number 7. Kulbhushan and Sons has entered into a contract to supply a consignment of certain taxable goods. However, since it is unable to determine the value of goods to be supplied by it, it applies for payment of tax on such goods on a provisional basis along with the required documents in support of this request. Okay. So since this person is not able to determine the exact amount, that person is trying to pay the taxes on provisional basis along with the required documents. Now, on 12th of January, the Assistant Commissioner of Central Tax issues an order allowing payment of tax on provisional basis, indicating the value on the basis of which the assessment is allowed on provisional basis and the amount for which the bond is to be executed and the security is to be furnished. So in case if you want to pay taxes on provisional basis, then you have to execute a bond and a security you have to furnish. So suppose in case your provisional amount falls short, then that can be recovered along with the interest. Now, Kulbhushan and Sons complies with the same and supplies the goods on 25th January, thereafter paying the tax on provisional basis in respect of the said consignment on 19th February. Consequent to the final assessment order passed by the Assistant Commissioner of Central Tax on 21st March, a tax of 1,80,000 becomes due on the consignment. Kulbhushan and Son pays the due tax on 9th of April. Determine the interest payable. Okay, so if you are paying, if for this, your interest payable will be from the date of your provisional payment of the taxes till the date you are making such payment of taxes. Okay, see. Section 64 of the CGST Act stipulates that where the tax liability as per the final assessment is higher than under provisional assessment, that is, tax becomes due consequent to order of final assessment, the registered person shall be liable to pay interest on tax payable on supply of goods but not paid on due date at the rate specified under section 51, that is 18% per annum interest will be liable from the first day after the due date of payment of tax in respect of the goods supplied under provisional assessment till the date of actual payment, whether such amount is paid before or after the issuance of order of the final assessment. So, in the given case, the due date for payment of tax cleared on 25th January and the provisional assessment is 20th February. Okay, so from 20th February, you are liable to pay the interest. Now, in view of the provisions of section 64, in the given case, Kulbhushan and Son is liable to pay following interest in respect of consignment. So, 1,80,000 was your tax amount, 18% is your rate of interest for 48 days. See how this 48 days is calculated. So, you have to calculate from 20th February till you are making the payment. See on which date we are making payment. Assuming all the other facts remaining same, if consequent to the final assessment order passed on 21st March, a tax of 4,20,000 becomes refundable on the consignment, refund of which is applied on 9th of April and tax was refunded to it on 5th of June, determine the interest receivable. So for interest receivable, you have to calculate from the 61st day. Okay, till 60 days there will be no interest on the refund amount. Okay, and see, Kulbhushan and Sons is paying the tax on 9th of April. So from 20th February till 9th of April, your 48 days comes. Okay, this is from 20th February, 20th February till your 9th of April. Okay, this is your 48 days. Now that amount comes to be 4261. Now, if in the given case it is assumed that consequent to the final assessment order passed on 21st March, there is a tax of 4,20,000 which is refundable. Okay, so for refund till 60 days there will be no interest. Now, see, section 65 stipulates where the tax liability as per the final assessment is less than in provisional assessment, that is tax becomes refundable consequent to the order of final assessment. The registered person shall be paid interest at the rate specified under section 56, that is 6% per annum from the date immediately after the expiry of 60 days from the date of receipt of application under section 54(1) till the date of refund of such tax. Since in the given case refund has been made on 5th June within 60 days, so there will be no interest. Okay, see, date of refund is 9th of April and from 9th of April you have to count 60 days. If the payment is done within 60 days, then there is no interest. But if the payment is done after 60 days, then you have to calculate the interest from 61st day till the date of your payment. So here in this case, interest is not payable to Kulbhushan and Sons on the tax refunded. So that's all for the chapter of assessment and audit. I shall see you again in the next video. Till then, keep studying. Happy studies. Goodbye.